Whoops.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissim. With me, as always, is my main man, Mr. David Fuchs.
Main man. See, that's like the default one when I know you don't have like an adjective in your head, but
David,
I
you
love it.
you you, you can't get an adjective every class. I'm sorry.
No, I
Every.
agree. I don't think you should do it every class. You should keep it spontaneous.
Um. So I have a question for you because I
Shoot.
think this is one of the biggest CFP complaints when somebody doesn't pass the exam, and it's I narrowed it down to two answers, and I feel like I just kept guessing the wrong answer. What do you think is happening? Or, like, when somebody comes to you with that, what are you typically telling them? What do you think is kind of the underlying cause of it?
I mean that I actually don't think that's just a thing on the CFP. I think that's the thing on just like tests in general. Like I've been hearing that since I was in like sixth grade, getting ready to take the like state exams in New York. And I think that it is widespread advice, albeit sometimes it could be good advice. Sometimes it's not a general rule of thumb. So actually that actually breaks it down for me right there. I think if the common thing is what they're like, yeah, like I kept getting it down to two answers, and I think I just guessed on the wrong one. Well, that's because since you were 12 years old, the teachers or your parents or your friends or whoever, they're always telling you on exams, they're like, yeah, you have a big test. They're like, well, the ones that you don't know, or even the ones you do know, they're like, just get it down to two. And then you give yourself a 50-50 chance as opposed to a 25% chance or a 20% chance if it's five answers. And I think that that's a not a bad strategy if you genuinely do not know the material and you don't know anything about that um that topic or that question. But if that's your main strategy going in, you're going to get your ass kicked. It's good when you don't know anything and you have to wither it down, but you can't go in and say, "Yep, every question I'm just going to get it down to two, and then hopefully I'll pick the right one."
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That I think it is something that has been beaten into your head from the time that you are 6 years old.
100%.
From the first standardized test that you take, it's like if you don't know it, try to eliminate and do it by process of elimination. Great if you really don't know the question, because you're right, it takes it down from a 25% chance. And basically, if you
Moves
eliminate
it up.
one answer, you have a 33% chance, and if you eliminate two, you're 50-50. But if that's what you're doing as you're studying,
Yeah, you're
you're always going to end up it's going to. And here's the thing, this is the real fucked up part. When you're studying, it's going to feel really good, because I know, like, most providers, like, if you analyze certain providers questions, they write the answers in a really specific way. Like, and I can kind of pick up on the patterns. Like, I know that different providers, how what A B is going to be, B is going to be, C is going to be, D is going to be. And so you can kind of cheat your way through it by knowing, one, the pattern of your provider. You start to get used to it. And two, they're always going to throw two in there that really don't belong. And just by association, you're going to bring it down to two.
I always thought that was like, and I think it's a good general strategy. I don't have like a major issue with it. I always, and this is, I used to think this as a kid. I remember I'd be this innocent little naive kid that, I was thinking to myself like, what if you don't wither, what if you get it down to two, but the one you eliminated was the right one? And now you're picking between two wrong answers. So So that was my always like that was always my um reservation with using that strategy as a rule of thumb. I always thought these adults, I was just like, yeah, well, maybe that's how you did it, but
Right.
but how are your grades?
Yeah.
Like and I would just be like to myself like, well, yeah, like I guess it is a good strategy sometimes, but I'm like, but that you're not always gonna, if you don't know the topic and you don't know the answer, you wither it down to two, you may not have that
Yeah.
correct answer
Yeah.
as part of
And
the two.
it's the fastest way to being borderline, right? It's the fastest way to being like, I might pass or I might not pass. I'm gonna be over or under depending on how good my guesses are. And that's a really crappy way to take the exam, in my opinion. Especially because, the one advantage that you have with CFP and to some extent there's a lot of professional designations that I feel are this way: CPA, CFP, CFA, and some of the other ones. They actually have practical parts to them.
Hmm.
You may not use everything that you learned on CFP, but you're going to learn a lot, and there's going to be a lot of things that you carry into your practice. I know when I was studying for CFP, I carried that stuff into my practice immediately.
Yeah.
I at least pulled two or three things. Like part of my business developed, which I did, was doing more and more retirement planning, and I got referred out because we learned so much about retirement planning that I found an actuary, had them write a custom plan for a client, a profit sharing plan, maximize what they were putting in. They had to put some money in there for their employees, but they were like, went from saving 20 grand a year to saving 60 grand a year inside of their profit sharing plan. And that made a huge difference for them in terms of their taxes. And so, yeah, they were really happy to pay $2,500 or $3,000 because they saved that amount of money on their taxes in year one. It was an immediate positive. Now, that set the precedent for the next client, and that all stemmed from my CFP. The CFP certainly laid that seed in.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that are practical here. So, if you're going in and you do want to play, and especially if you're on the younger side, if you're in your early 20s or your mid 20s or even your late 20s and you're still new to the industry, this is stuff that you're going to be able to carry forward and what's going to propel you into either being promoted, into being taken seriously, into walking into meetings feeling more confident. Because, when you have people who have been doing this for 20 years, they don't think about this stuff anymore. They know. And, you probably work with some senior advisors, David, and it feels watching them work is like it's like a art form, man. It's like they know what to say, they know what not to say. They might hit you and say, "Don't say that." You know, when I was working, I had three guys who were senior, and going out to meetings with them, I think I maybe said 8 words altogether in the first year that I went out on meetings. I just sat there in the corner and acted like and I was, I'd speak when I was spoken to. Other than that, but then when it was my turn to speak, I didn't want to sound like an idiot.
Yeah.
I
100%.
wanted people to take me seriously. I wanted my seat at the table, and I wanted people to look at me and say, well, Joe actually knows what he's talking about. And I wanted to have the confidence to do it because the way that when clients are emotional and you need to be able to settle that and understand how to manage that client. And CFP has gone and added a psychology of financial planning to it. Right? Because again, we know that that is what we are dealing with as financial planners. So if you're going in and you're just trying to guess your way through the material, yes, you will get the letters. Eventually, if you do it enough, you will get the letters. But what's the point if you don't actually learn anything?
Yeah, and I was going to say the strategy that we talked about earlier, the 50-50 ball, as we call it,
Yep.
or, withering it down to two and then guessing, that is a strategy to pass the exam. And listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going in with a strategy. You should have some sort of plan in your head. But that's a strategy to kind of like swerve in and pass the exam and get the letters. Everything that you just said right there about how much knowledge you poured in or you learned from the exam that you then poured into your actual career as an advisor, or just in general, when people leave the CFP, I think most people leave the CFP exam and say, you know what, that's the first professional designation exam that I've taken where I've taken the material and was able to practically apply it to my everyday responsibilities
Immediately.
immediately. If not immediately, very shortly after that.
Right.
And and if you're doing this thing where you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go in and I'm going to try and get it down to two answers and then I'll have a 50-50 shot on most questions and I think that'll help me pass. Well, you're not really, and I'm sorry, you have the letters, you're not really a CFP at that point. And I don't mean to sound holier than thou. I really hate sounding like that, but like there's a difference between people that got the designation just to flashy and put it on their business card and try and impress clients. And then there's people that took the exam because they genuinely wanted to learn the knowledge and do and be better professionals and be able to offer their clients better services. If you're doing the 50-50 thing, you're probably in the former and you're just doing it because you want to put it on your business card and you want to put it on your LinkedIn profile to look cool.
Right. And it's not even to look cool. It's like I
You
want
know,
credibility without necessarily being credible.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I mean by like flashy. Like you're just trying, you're kind of overselling yourself. Like, yeah, all right, you have 9 letters next to your name, but what, like, do you apply any of the knowledge from those exams to your everyday life? No, then honestly, what,
What's the
why do you
point?
have,
What's
like,
the
what's the
point?
point? Yeah,
Yeah.
like, what's the point of having them? Like, and again, it's, and I can go on and on about this because
Yeah.
I, see I like the comma CFP. It's very sleek. That's all you need. I don't need any of these other things
All right.
just to try and impress people.
Yeah, and I genuinely feel like these 50-50 balls, if they're more than 20% of your exam,
Yeah,
you
you
don't
don't
know the material. Period.
no, and yeah, you're just faking it to make, you're just faking it to get across. And if you happen to get across, good for you. You guessed really well. But, I don't think you're going to really add much value to your business or to your clients
Right.
by doing it.
Right. And look, I know that there are programs out there that are exam centric. And I know a lot of us are walking into this exam going, my boss, I'm trying to get promoted. I want to get a better job. I want to put something on my resume that makes me look better or differentiates me from the rest of the financial planning world. There's tons of financial planners out there, but not everybody gets to put the CFP designation behind their name. And I got to tell you that that motivation is going to be, it's going to lead to a lot of shortcuts and being more exam centered than necessarily learning centered. And I just genuinely think that if you're going to take this exam, you have to learn the material. The exam will take care of itself if you learn the material. If you're trying just to pass the exam, you're going to do things that are not based around learning and they have a limited shelf life. Right?
Mhm.
It's like trying to starve myself to lose weight. Well, that has a shelf life. It will work to
Right.
a point, and then when that shelf life expires, then I'm back at the same point because I
Yeah.
really haven't changed anything. I haven't learned how to eat better. I haven't learned how to balance things out. I haven't learned how to prepare food. And so when you think about it from that perspective, if your preparation is not centered around learning the material, you're going to come back to the same place over and over again, which is I'm playing the multiple choice elimination game. And again, what we're saying is that you're never going to get rid of that, but it should be a much smaller facet of what you're experiencing as opposed to this is half of my exam I'm bringing down to two answers. How
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
exhausting that is?
I know. I know.
That
Well,
that's
yeah,
brutal.
exactly. And again, like my rule of thumb would be if you have zero idea, like literally zero idea. Do your best to get it down to as little amount of answers as possible, even if you could just eliminate one. But try and get it down to two and then you give yourself a 50-50 chance from there. But it's really only when you literally do not know anything about the topic and you're either going to guess out of the four or you're going to get it down to two and guess.
Correct. Correct. And I think this is a key important thing for you to realize that if you're taking a 20 question quiz and you're playing the multiple choice game or you're doing the process of elimination on more than 4 or 5 questions, go back and learn the material. Do yourself a favor, learn the material. because that number only continues to grow and grow and grow. You had more questions. Now I'm doing it. And imagine, David, you're taking a 50 question quiz and you're playing that game on the first 12.
Mhm.
By 13, now I'm starting to make silly mistakes. Now I'm not
Yeah.
reading the question. And then it
Mhm.
starts to domino into each other.
Yeah.
So I think,
I'll
again,
throw one more out there.
yeah,
Sorry, but I just want to say one more thing.
yeah.
You get it down to 50-50. I can almost guarantee you that you're going to pick one and you're going to do the next couple of questions and you're going to think to yourself, wait, I think I answered that wrong. And you're going to go back and you're going to change it. And this is like the golden rule of taking tests. Don't go back and change your answer. And I think that 50-50 strategy only elicits people or enables people to do that even more,
Yeah.
which that's a double no-no.
Yeah. Especially when you see another similar question and now you have to
Right.
answer it the other way.
Right. Or you see another similar question and and it's similar and the answer that you chose on the previous one isn't even an answer on the next one that you took it. Now you're like, fuck.
Oh,
Like
God.
I definitely got that one wrong.
Honestly, that made my test nerves just like pop up. Like I got a little
Yeah.
twinge in my stomach, like
Yeah.
because we've all been there. But again, there's a difference between being prepared and guessing. And if, again, more than 20% of your practice is in that boat, go back and learn the material. All right, everybody. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. As always, with any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to David or myself. And please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And we will see you guys on our next episode.